Work. It's one of the seemingly clear aspects of life. It tells others who we are, what we seek, and what we become. Our introductions are led by, "Hello, this is John. He's currently working as insert any generic job here." This title, depending on what it is, will grant the person a certain level of respect. After all, not all jobs are equal, right? And work is also one of the main things, other than sleep, which takes up our time in the day, with the average person spending over 90,000 hours in their lifetime working. That's over 10 years straight working 24/7, that most people don't actually enjoy. And for what? The need to simply survive on this planet? That can't possibly be the only case. There has to be something more to work. There has to be some good work out there. That good work is something which provides satisfaction. It is stimulating for the person doing the work, and it is enjoyable on its own. It also has a good balance in our lives. Or in other words, it's what we think of when we're imagining a hobby. So how did we get into a situation where most people are miserable in their work? Believe it or not, we didn't used to have to work too hard or so often. In our first form of work, the hunting and the gathering, we only really worked around 15 hours a week. There was never this notion of time investment or time as money. We would get food when we were hungry and get water when we were thirsty, and just live off the land. There was a tribe by the name of the Jitswani who were simply content to take entire days off simply because they felt like it. Try telling that to your boss nowadays. It was with the invention of agriculture that we actually started to commoditize time. With the invention of agriculture, we began to be thrifty with our time. We saw what we get out of the land as a direct correlation to what we put in. The more weeds you pull, the better the crops will be. And what this resulted in was a never-ending work cycle. You always had to work or else everything would fall apart. If you didn't go out to the fields, then your crops would die. Time itself became a commodity. Thus, in Smith's view, the labor value of a bow or anything else was established not by the amount of work that went into making it, but by the amount of work the purchaser was prepared to do in order to acquire it. Time is money, 249. The way that we kept track of the amount of work gone into something is wage labor. It's a system in which the worker puts in their time not to receive a product they themselves produce, but to receive a representation of buying power. Wages. Now, historically, these wages have always been very low, but over the past century, things have gotten at least a little bit better. Labor hours used to be around 12 hours a day for 6 to 7 days a week, and through strong protests and labor rights movements, that has diminished to an 8-hour workday for 5 days a week. However, everything isn't necessarily better. There's still a huge subset of the population defined by being the working poor, or if not that, at least having no safety net for not working. See, this results in a literal need to always be working, no matter whether you like the job or not. If you don't work, you don't have food, and you don't have shelter. Now, I know what you're all thinking at this point. How does this tie into the nature of good work? Well, as it stands now in the US, a large portion of the population is barred from experiencing this good work. Without good work, how are we supposed to live the good life? Now, good work has 3 principles. It provides satisfaction, it provides stimulation, and there is a healthy balance between the work and our lives outside of it. So let's break these down. Work provides satisfaction. Good work is something in which we can go into every day, where we see a purpose behind it. It isn't something that we do believing that it doesn't bring anything good into this world. It needs to be something that we can be proud to have devoted so many years of our lives to. And yet, more often than not, people aren't satisfied with their work. They feel tied down and as if what they do is utterly meaningless. However, there isn't any option to simply quit. They have to stay working because if they don't, they won't be able to afford the basic necessities and be even worse for wear. See, we need to implement a safety net to ensure that workers have the freedom to switch jobs and be in limbo if they don't feel satisfied with their work. Work provides stimulation. Stimulation is similar to satisfaction, however, it isn't quite the same. Stimulation in work means that each day there is something new or different or enjoyable to keep it interesting. There is always something which will keep your mind occupied and engaged in the task one does. You can be swept into a state of hyperfixation on a job where all else melts away. However, that isn't what most jobs in the US are like. For many, the days, weeks, months, and years at work all blend into one thing. There isn't much variety to distinguish one day from the next. It turns into a mindless watching as your time just slips away. We lack this stimulation because of how over-optimized everything is in the workplace. Scientific management has ensured that each job can be broken into a small task, and that one worker will repeat that task over and over again, getting super efficient at it. And this causes many tasks to be a set of mindless repetitions by the employee, making them simply a machine. Now, Severance is a book which touched on this topic, where people, caught in their work, turned to routine and mechanical movements and became fevered. But is that really so different than today? To quote the book, "What is the difference between the fevered and us? Because I remember too. I remember perfectly. My memories replay unprompted on repeat, and our days, like theirs, continue in an infinite loop. We drive, we sleep, we drive some more." Severance, chapter 15. We need to question whether this over-optimization is actually a good thing. Sure, it increases productivity and we have more stuff, but at what cost? Is it worth being miserable in your workday, day in and day out, just so you can have 2 TVs instead of 1? Personally, I don't think so. The enjoyment benefit of a job you genuinely love is so much higher than the enjoyment one would get from simply stuff. There is a healthy work-life balance. Work-life balance is one of those buzzwords that people often throw out. But what does it really mean? What is it to actually have a balance between work and life? I mean, should you have a balance? I would say that you absolutely should. I mean, there's more to life than simply the productive activity. There are the arts of life. I mean, friends and family are just as important, if not more important, than work. Even if the work that you did every single day was the good work that we're talking about, you would still need that balance. You need to be more than just your job. And unfortunately, our current system doesn't really allow for that. As it stands, there is a hustle culture where it is looked down upon if you don't spend the long hours working your way up the business ladder. There is a shame centered around taking leave for family time. I mean, in the US, there's no guaranteed paid maternity leave, and it's nearly non-existent to see paternity leave. Family and friends are meant to take priority, not the job. We've seen that the American culture and environment is not the most conducive to having a good work and a flourishing life. But that was simply for the average person. What about us BC students who have more opportunities and are meant to develop our whole person, as BC states? Does our Career Center guide us to do good work? The answer is almost. BC Career Center gets a lot right, but doesn't want to say too much in either direction. They guide students to do work that brings joy, they are good at, and is where the world needs them to be. But when pressed on whether some types of work or work values are better than another, they stated it is entirely subjective. From their Determining Values worksheet, values are indicators as to what is most important in your life, and they guide our choices. There is no best set of values, and identifying what makes you feel happy and satisfied can help you make many decisions, including major and career choice. In conclusion, work can be good and valuable and meaningful in and of itself. It is simply the way our work culture is set up that gives work a negative connotation. So take the Career Center's advice and do a job that you enjoy and are good at and is necessary for the world, but make sure you still keep the core values of good work in mind. If you want to live well, make sure to put family and friends first, and then you can go enjoy your job. Thank you.